All right, guys. So what I'm going to do today is we are going to do a refresher game to get you reacquainted. So this is for Video Game Design 2 students. And the goal of this game is just to get you reacquainted with Construct because for some of you, it's maybe been a while since you've used Construct. So we're going to do a simple platformer game that we will add some more advanced things at the end, but it's to kind of just get you reacquainted with it so you guys kind of get back in the swing of things before we get into our main projects of the class. So if you're in Google Classroom, the first thing that you need to do is if you haven't done it yet, you're going to need assets to make this game. So I have a separate video on how to do this, so I'm not going to go in super detail, but you need to go to Construct Game Assets and you need to get these Mario assets because we're going to make it just a demo Mario game. And the reason I use Mario is just because a lot of people are familiar with what Mario is and the style of that. So you need to get those downloaded and good to go. So if you're not sure, watch this video if you're not sure how to do it. So you're going to do that first. Then you're going to click on the Construct 3 link, which will take you right into Construct. Make sure you're logged in. If you haven't done it yet, you need to make sure you email me or send me or let me know what your username is, and I will get you full version access to Construct. So if you're logged in and you don't see any words next to your name, like it doesn't say limited or demo or free version, then you're good to go. If it looks like mine, then you're good. All right, so what we're going to do, and just so you guys know, I'm probably going to go a little bit faster through the demo than normal because you've already had Game Design 1, and this is just a refresher, but feel free to pause the video at any time if you need more time, rewatch, do what you need to do. So we're going to make a new project, and we're just going to go ahead and name it. And what I would do is just type your first name and your last name. So I'm just going to do Mr. Wagner, and then we'll just call it Mario Demo. Okay. The viewport size, we're going to change that to 480 by 250. Okay, right there. And then you can just click create. Okay, and now we have our game file here. Remember, if you want to see more of the layout, if you just click somewhere on your layout out here, you just have to click once and then do control minus or control plus. You can zoom in or out if you want to be able to see your layout a little bit better. Okay, just a reminder, since we're doing a refresher, the right side, you should have your project window. It shows all of the folders and parts of your game, mainly your layouts, your event sheets, and your object types. Those are the big ones. There will be sounds as well. And then we have our layer window down here, which is really important, which should also be tiered with a tile map. If you don't have the tile map right now, it's not a huge deal. There's nothing in this class that's going to require tile map, but I do have videos on how to make tile maps because some people like to do it on their final projects. And then on the left side, we have a properties window here that shows the properties of whatever object you have selected. It's the most important window probably because we do a lot in there. Okay. If you are missing a window, you just click menu and then view. Let me see here. View right here and then bars. And then just make sure all those bars are checked. For me, it's the top four. Okay. And you're good to go. Tile map isn't super important. Whoops, I don't want to actually close the bar. Tile maps aren't super important. So if you wanted to get rid of that bar, you could, but it's up to you. All right. So we set the viewport already to 480 by 250. If you didn't do it on the initial part, remember if you click the project in the upper right here, the project name, then you get the properties of the entire project, and that is where the viewport size will be right down here. So right there, you can edit that if you forgot to. Make sure it's 480 by 250. Next, we're going to do layout size. And just so you're not confused, remember the viewport size is this dotted box right here. And that's the size of the window that the player sees when they're playing. So this represents the player's computer screen, basically, of what they're seeing. Okay. Whereas the layout size is the entire white box. That represents the size of the level. So because the level is so big we can't see it all the time, we would have scrolling mechanics where it would scroll with the player. Okay, so just so you're not confused between the two. So what we're going to do is we are going to set the layout size. So we're going to click on layout 1 here in the upper right. We are going to set the size to 1600 by 250. Okay, and just press enter when you're done there. Also, we can change the name up here as well. So our layout 1, we're going to call it just level 1 with no spaces. Okay, and you can rename it up here in properties, or you could have just right clicked it over here. So we'll do that with our event sheet one. So if you take event sheet 1, just right click it and rename, and we will just call it ES game. because that's going to be the event sheet for our main game. Okay. All right, we got that. Next, what we're going to do is let's get our game saved so that we're good to go. So I'm going to go down to menu and I'm going to go to project and then I'm going to do save as and we're going to do a cloud save. Okay. And what you want to do is make sure it's labeled properly and it's saving into your Google Drive. Make sure if it asked you like what account to use, make sure you use your school account. And then go ahead and just name it and click save. I'm going to give this a little different name just because I have others with the same name. And I'm going to overwrite one that I've already saved. Okay, perfect. All right, so we've got that in there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our background in. So we're going to make a tiled background. So remember to insert an object. There's a few ways you can do it. So if you're on your layout, you simply just double click out here outside the layout and you'll get this screen to add an object. Or no matter where you're at, you could be like on an event sheet, you could be on your layout, you could be anywhere. But all you'd have to do is in your project window, you can just right click on this object type folder and you can add it here. And that works the same way. So however you like to add objects, that's fine. We're going to make a tiled background. Remember, for anything you're doing, you can search for it by typing if you want to. So if I just type in tiled, it'll pop right up. And then we're going to go ahead and just call it background, or I'll just call it BG. I like to be simple with that. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to insert. You get the little plus cursor and you click on the screen again. And then we get this window here. Okay, now for our tile background, we're just going to load a single image. So I'm going to click this load folder here. Find your Mario assets. It should be in your downloads folder if you just downloaded it by default. But if you maybe downloaded it and moved it somewhere else, you should know how to find it. So basically get into your Mario assets and we're going to put this background in. And it's important that this is a tiled background and not a sprite. So hopefully you made it a tiled background. If you made a sprite, you're going to have to delete it and try it again. So I'm going to close this. And the difference is if it were a sprite, it would stretch. And maybe we'll do a quick demo of that. So just watch me right now. Don't actually do this. I'm going to quick, just as an example, show you the difference. So I'm just going to quick make a sprite. And I'm going to load in the same image. And I'm going to show you the difference. One thing that's different is that when it's a sprite, it gets a collision box and it gets image points, whereas the tile background did not. But in terms of this, okay, so you can see this here, if I shrink it down, it like shrinks the pixels, right? Whereas when I take the tiled background, it keeps the original ratio of the picture. And when I stretch it, it just keeps repeating it. You see, I'll just repeat. Okay. Whereas if I take this guy and I stretch it, it just literally stretches the pixels and it gets really long. So tiled backgrounds are good. Like if you can create an image that, like if you pasted it next to it, it would repeat fairly well. Now mine you can see isn't perfect, so I got this little glitchy part here, but you get the idea that it could essentially go on forever. So they're good because you can use them for a variety of level lengths. It doesn't really matter how long it is. So I'm just deleting that because I don't want that anymore. I'm gonna get rid of that. Okay, so tile background is good because it will never stretch out the pixels. Now you can see that though, this background is way too big for this. So there is a way to still resize a tiled background. You just can't do it out here because you see if I try to fit it into here, you'll see it doesn't do what I want. It doesn't show the ground or anything. So what we're going to do is something different. We're going to double click and go back into this tile background. And we're going to click this resize button right here. So now you do want to be doing this with me. I'm done with my example showing you the sprite part. So do this with me. Click on this double arrow here. And we're going to reset it to 444 by 250. And basically all I did, so 444 and then the height 250. Basically all I did was I scaled it down. Since the height of my layout is 250, I just figured out when I make the height of this 250, the width has to be 444 to keep the same proportions. That's how I figured that out. So I'm just going to click OK. So now it shrinks a little bit, and now you can see it's tiling a lot more. And you'll see what happens now if I go into the properties and I change the position to 0, 0, 0, 0. It'll tuck into the upper left corner. This is because the origin of a tiled background is set to be upper left, and 0, 0 will put that right at the 0, 0 coordinate. So that's why it goes in the upper left, okay? And then all we have to do is change the size to match our layout. So 1600 by 250. Okay, just like that. And you see it fits in there perfectly and it just tiles really nice. Okay. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to take this layer 0. We're going to right click it and rename it, and we're going to make it the background layer. And we are going to lock it down so that we can't move it around. Okay. Then what we need to do is let's set up other layers. So let's make a HUD, a main, and a blocks layer. So down here in the layers window, I can just right click, add a layer to top, right click, add a layer to top, right click, add a layer to top. And then the top layer, I'm just going to rename it HUD, H-U-D. Second layer, I'm going to rename main. This layer down here, I'm going to rename that blocks. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to set parallax right away. So remember, parallax is how things scroll. So things can scroll faster or slower. So if I click on the HUD layer, we're going to change the parallax to 0, 0. So remember, HUD stands for heads up display, and this is where we put our text objects like our score or lives or things like that. And the idea is if I put like score up here, I basically want it to stick there so that when my player moves, I'm basically telling it not to scroll at all. So that's why we're putting the parallax at 0, 0. And remember, 0, 0 means it's scrolling at 0% widthwise and 0% vertically. That's why we use two numbers for parallax, because it could scroll at different rates, whether it's vertical or horizontal if we want it to. And then the background layer, we are going to set that parallax to 75. 75. And that's just so that scrolls a little bit slower than everything to give a little bit of dimension. Because what happens is if I put blocks and objects, if it scrolls the exact same rate as the background, they just look like they're stuck together. But by making the background scroll a little bit slower, it makes it look more three-dimensional, like they're separate objects. Okay, so we did that. We did that. Now let's put Mario into our game. So we're going to go ahead and get Mario loaded in. And then what I might do is after we put Mario in, we'll stop there and we'll call this part 1. And then I'll kind of record the other videos in parts so you're not overwhelmed with a super long video for this. So let's go ahead and just double click to insert another sprite or insert an object. And this time it will be a sprite. We will just call it Mario. We will click insert, click on the screen. And what we'll do first is we will just click the load box to load a default image. And we just want the basic Mario. So right here, Mario. We'll just click open. Okay. And there's a couple things we want to do. You'll see he's really, really small. So I'm going to click this plus and zoom in a few times. Okay. And we want Mario facing the right, and we also want to make sure it's cropped really nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this crop button up here, and it's just going to crop it out nicely. And then I'm going to hit this button here to basically flip him horizontally. Okay. So we're going to call it right there. We'll have this be video number 1. And then when you finish this, go ahead and just check out the other videos to finish this demo out.